Hello, my name is Shejini, and I am so happy to be with you today on this episode of Teaching Made Easy. Today, we are going to talk about a very interesting concept that has to do with teachers making mistakes or teachers making errors when they are delivering lessons. If you are a professional teacher, what do you do when you make a mistake or when you make an error? Do you try to cover it up or do you try to make it up? Now, one of the things that you should never do as a teacher is to try to cover up a mistake or an error that you've made while delivering a lesson. And here are three reasons why. The first reason is that we live in a world that is full of technology and artificial intelligence. The internet is all over the place. It suffices that students just go online and a second's click away, they will find the answer to the question that they've asked you and you probably gave something wrong. So you have to be very careful because the answer to every subject, every conceivable subject, idea or content or context that you can think about, the answers are on the internet. And students nowadays are so smart that when you're teaching and there's a question that is challenging and you give them a wrong answer, or maybe when you're marking their scripts and then you mark something wrong, they can just copy that same question and online on Google and search the right answers and they will find out. So it's never a good idea for a teacher to cover up a mistake or a wrong concept that they have made while delivering a lesson. The second reason why you should never cover up a mistake or an error as a teacher is that some of your students have home tutors. They are being tutored at home by other teachers who understand your concept, what you're teaching. And some of the parents as well do understand your subject matter. So when you teach kids and you make a mistake or you make an error and you try to cover it up, there's a likelihood that some parents or some tutors will pick up the mistake that you made and it can actually ruin your personality. However, it all depends on how you handle it. If a parent or a tutor identifies to you that there was a mistake here and you try to challenge, you try to refute the idea, maybe that's where it can bring some conflicts and so on and so forth. Well, I'm going to talk about what to do when you make a mistake as a teacher. The third reason why you should never cover up a mistake as a teacher is that sometimes students ask you questions when they already know the answer to the question they're asking you. So, in other words, they try to tease you to see if you're smart enough. This happens a lot with high school students, especially when you're a new teacher. You walk into class, you introduce yourself, and by the time you want to start teaching, they might ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer to the question, and you try to bluff and you give a wrong answer, or you want to give an answer at all cost, and then you make a mistake, they're going to ridicule you later on because they know the answers and they know they have a purpose why they were asking the question, and that was because they wanted to tease you. So as a teacher, you have to be very careful. When you make a mistake or when you make an error, don't try to cover up. These are some of the things that you can do, which I have done, and it's most cases is successful. The first thing is when you're teaching and you make a mistake, or maybe a student asks you a question and you don't know the answer, instead of trying to give an answer at all costs, it is better to tell them, okay, I will find out. Try to be vulnerable. When you're a teacher, be vulnerable. Let them know that you are human and you don't know the answers to all the questions. And when you tell the students, I will find out, make sure that when you come to class the next day, that is the first thing you're doing. You're telling them, okay, I went online or I researched and I found out that this is the answer to the question that you asked me. When you do like this, when you do this, the students respect you the more and they know you are a serious teacher. Another thing you should do when you make an error or a mistake is that don't try to cover it up or look as though it is humiliating. For example, you might be teaching in class and you make an error, a spelling error. You spell something wrongly on the board, or you, instead of saying oxygen, you say carbon dioxide and all of that. Sometimes the best way is to dispatch the mistake with humor and just accept it and thank the students when they bring it to your notice, rather than trying to shut them down for correcting a mistake that you have made. So try to look at mistakes as normal, as something that is human. because it's actually human. We all make mistakes. There's no one in the world who doesn't make a mistake. But when you try to make a big deal out of someone correcting you for your mistake as a teacher, that is where you get it all wrong. Because we as teachers, our job is to create a learning environment that is favorable for all the students, and we have to be the model. And what does it mean to be a model? A model means a good learning environment is an environment that promotes corrections from errors, failures, and mistakes, because that is what learning is all about. Learning means you don't know something and you're trying to know something. You're trying to learn something. And if you want to learn something, you have to make mistakes along the way, and then you have to be corrected. But as a teacher, if you make a mistake and you're corrected, it means you're playing into the role of learning. So it is a good thing when you accept that you are vulnerable and you can make a mistake, and together with the students, you can work together to come up with correct answers. That is good, and that is respectful both for you and the students. So one of the things you should put in mind as a teacher is that it is very dangerous and risky to pass along or to pass across a wrong concept to students, because students have it in their mind that whatever the teacher tells them is correct, and they can carry it along for the rest of their lives. So one of the things you should do is that when you realize that you have passed out a wrong concept, or you have taught something wrong, or you made a mistake, it is always good never to shy away from that error. It is good to come back to class and address the issue or address the concept and tell the students that this is the mistake and that this is what it is supposed to be. Practicing how to be open enough with your students and not to cover up mistakes and errors will give you the respect that you deserve, rather than thinking that when you cover up the mistakes because you are afraid that if you are vulnerable to tell students that you've made a mistake, it will ridicule you. On the other hand, when students realize that you've made a mistake and you are open enough to tell them, okay, this is the correction and this is the right thing, they know that you love them and you respect them because you take time to research what is right and give them the right thing. So my advice to you is that as a teacher, never cover up a mistake, never cover up an error. Try as much as possible to correct any mistake that you make as a teacher. And if it's an error, please tell the students thank you. If they have identified an error, tell them thank you, I will find out. Who says that when a student corrects you, it means that you are not a competent teacher? Who says that when you make a mistake, you are not a competent teacher? Everyone makes mistakes. There are times you may wake up on the bad side of your bed and you go to teach, and then probably instead of saying oxygen, you're saying carbon dioxide or hydrogen. Or you can even teach students something, and then while you're writing on the board, you make a slight error and you don't notice it, and you end up with the wrong answer, and students identify it. As a matter of fact, when you teach students well and they understand the concept, you will get to a point where they will be the one correcting you in class, but they will be happy enough to correct you because they learned it from you. A good teacher is that one who would teach a student with the notion that the student will become better than the teacher. So if you're a teacher and in your mind you're teaching students something, what you should have at the back of your mind is that your students should understand it even much more better than you, who is the teacher. There is no, how do I call it? There is no low self-esteem in this aspect. There is no degrading concept or degrading mindset in this aspect. The only thing is that you taught your students, you cause them to understand, and along the line you make slight errors and you all work together to fix it. So errors and mistakes is the life of a teacher. It's normal. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just try as much as possible to see how you can fix things, how you can be open with your students, how you can work together with them to know that it's okay to make errors. When you make errors, we do corrections and then we learn from there. And one last thing before I quit is that as a teacher, especially if you're teaching science subjects or subjects that have to do with calculations and mathematics and science, always go in for the challenging questions. It is funny sometimes that some teachers scare away from tough questions. No, it is better to handle the tough questions, because that is one way you grow as a teacher and learn more, so that when students start bringing those tough questions to you, because you've been handling them, it becomes like chocolate ABC, because you've been seeing them all the time. So a good teacher tackles and handles challenging questions. A good teacher never cover up a mistake or an error that they have made in terms of content when they are delivering lessons. Thank you very much for listening, but please do not forget to subscribe to this video so that you can receive more videos each time I put them up, and don't forget to hit the notification button as well so that you will be notified each time I put those videos. Thank you very much for listening. This was Teaching Made Easy. My name is Shay Ginny.